Shana Tova, everyone, and welcome to 5781. You may have noticed yesterday that we didn't perform one of the most iconic rituals of the High Holy Day services. We didn't blow shofar. When Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, we don't blow shofar. Why? It actually has to do with laws about carrying items on Shabbat, which we are forbidden to do, unless, of course, we live in a community with an eruv. An eruv is a Hebrew word which appears all over the Talmud, the Jewish book of laws, and it is a thin string that's hung around buildings, and when it's hung, it signifies that you can carry on Shabbat. New York City has an eruv, and you won't be able to see it from here, but the next time you come to New York, I encourage you to look for this almost translucent string that's hung from the top of buildings and telephone poles, and it means we can carry on Shabbat. Now, how does this have to do with Rosh Hashanah? Well, the rabbis were very concerned that if a shofar blower, even if they lived in a community with an eruv, that they might feel nervous and want to go into town and ask someone for tips or advice on how to blow shofar, but going into town would require them leaving the eruv, and they would therefore be carrying something outside of the eruv and violating Shabbat. So that's why we don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah when it falls on Shabbat. So what is a shofar? A shofar is a ram's horn. And we find it in the Torah. Its most earliest mention is when we receive the Ten Commandments at Mount Sinai. Each year when we read about receiving the Ten Commandments, we read about how Mount Sinai was filled with smoke and the sound of a shofar was heard and it became louder and louder. The shofar in ancient Israel was also blown to signify times of war, but it was also blown each Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of every new month. Now, we are entering a new month, but we are also entering a new year. So why are we supposed to hear shofar on Rosh Hashanah and even in the month leading up to Rosh Hashanah? The shofar is a sort of spiritual alarm clock. It reminds us that this is the time that we are supposed to perform teshuvah, or repentance. It's the time that we're supposed to look inward and do some self-reflection. Think about how we can be better in the year to come. Yesterday, we read the story of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. Right before Abraham sacrifices Isaac, what he thinks he's commanded by God to do, he's stopped by an angel, and the angel tells Abraham not to sacrifice Isaac, and instead they see a ram caught in the thickets by its horns, and they end up sacrificing that ram. The rabbis of the Talmud teach us that each of us at times is like that ram caught in the bushes. We're going to wrestle, and it's sometimes going to be difficult to get out of a murky place, but each year, the shofar can save us. The shofar can remind us that there is a way out, and that things will get better. Now, I am not a very good shofar blower, but my wife is, and in the next video, you will hear her do each of the blasts that we hear during Rosh Hashanah. Shana Tova, everyone.
Tikiya. Sharim. Teruah. Shavarim teruah. Tikiya gedolah.
One of the most recognizable melodies of the High Holy Days, if not in all of Judaism, is the melody we sing to Avinu Malkeinu. We didn't say Avinu Malkeinu yesterday, though, because it was Shabbat. We don't recite Avinu Malkeinu on Shabbat because it is a prayer that includes personal prayers. And we don't ask God for personal things on Shabbat because it might remind us of the things we lack. And if we're thinking about the things we don't have, then it might take us away from the joy we're supposed to experience on Shabbat. Avinu Malkeinu dates back to the time of the Talmud. That's where the words are first found. We read that there was a terrible famine in the land of Israel, and a famous rabbi named Rabbi Eliezer declared a 13-day famine. He approached the ark and he prayed the longest prayer he could think of, 24 blessings, so that the famine would break. But when he was done, no rain. Another rabbi approached the ark, a rabbi named Rabbi Akiva, and he said 2 words, Avinu Malkeinu. And rain came pouring down from the sky. The Talmud teaches us that there wasn't anything wrong about Rabbi Eliezer's prayer, but he had somewhat of a reputation for being a bit strict in the way he practiced his Judaism, a bit unbending, a bit uncompromising. Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, would listen to everyone, even though he knew that the law was on his side. He would allow for people to be heard. He would allow for people to explain themselves. As we are in this time of self-reflection and repentance, as we ask for forgiveness for other people, may we all be treated with the same sort of kindness Rabbi Akiva gave to anyone who approached him, with openness and understanding. Now, as for the words Avinu Malkeinu, literally they mean our Father, our King, but with a more contemporary translation, we can say our parent, our sovereign. Now, we should ask ourselves, how can God be both as close to us as a parent, but as authoritative as a ruler? The answer is that God is both. God exacts judgment on us and determines who is written and sealed in the book of life, but God also nurtures us, helps us find our way. The last stanza of Avinu Malkeinu reads like this: Avinu Malkeinu chanenu va'anenu ki ein banu ma'asim aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Our parent, our sovereign, graciously answer us although we are without merits. Deal with us charitably and lovingly save us. May it be so in 5781. Shana Tova, everyone. Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu Vanenu Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu Vanenu Ki ein panu masim Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu